Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm David and we interrupt the regular viewing for a slightly different type of video because it is approaching Halloween and I have been on occasion known to dress up. So I have to get a costume ready because there is a works due and we're expected to dress up. So let's see how my crafting skills convert over to cosplay. This is a hint. Cosplay Diary, day one. Okay, so the due is next Friday and it is now currently Sunday afternoon. So that basically gives me 5 days to get this whole lot done. So this is the backstory. Yes, a works due came up and was advertised and a group of ladies that I work with said, oh yeah, we're going to go and we're going to get dressed up. And one of them is a massive Harry Potter fan. So the theme for their group was Harry Potter and somehow I managed to get roped along. Actually no, it was more a case that Miss R threw down the gauntlet and said, oh, you can get dressed up as Voldemort. You can do all the facial prosthetics as well. Yeah, why not? But never let it be said that I shirk from a challenge. So that is my task. Now hopefully I've got all of the stuff that I need to make it, I'm pretty sure, but obviously not a huge amount of time, so I really do need to crack on. Thankfully I'm on a week's holiday, so I've got, you know, basically 5 full build days, but they are going to be pretty packed and I'm not looking forward to that prosthetic. So first things first, I need to sort out the wand, and I have done this before. One of the ladies has borrowed my Harry Potter wand that I made from an old paintbrush, so I will start off with one of these and see how I get on. Okay, wand part 1. Like I say, I have done this before. The good thing about paintbrushes is that they are tapered already, and all of the ones are tapered, or at least certainly the one that I'm going to be doing. So this is going to be the Elder wand that he nicks off Dumbledore. But it is not long enough. The whole lot has to be 37.5 centimetres according to what I've seen, so I'm going to have to extend it like that. So here's hoping. Hopefully this is going to work. One more tap should do it. Right, spot on. Okay, close enough as makes no difference. Right, now I need to reinforce that join. Best way to do that is going to be to use 2-part epoxy, and now thankfully it's up near the handle, so this is going to be quite thick, so I'll get a decent amount mixed. Right. Okay. Get all the remnants of that on. Alright, then I can pop it in its stand and let it just set. Right, so that epoxy has a 2-hour set time, so I'd best be getting on with something else. And the next big thing that I need to set is going to be a former for that prosthetic. So this is just plasticine. Let's see if I can take a cast of my nose. Gonna have to be quite high up. I have no idea how this is going to look on camera. There. Alright, that's taking an eyebrow with it. Get it formed back into shape. Well, hopefully that is going to be good enough to get a mould out of. Nose cast done, and I've wrapped it in tin foil just to stop it from warping. Now I need to get some plaster ready, and it reckons for the mix use 3 parts plaster to 1 part water. Right, I'll leave that to harden and we'll see how it comes out. Probably going to be messy. Oh, okay, things have not necessarily gone according to plan. The 2-part epoxy still hasn't cured and it's well over 2 hours. I get the feeling it was either rubbish epoxy I was using or just old stuff. But, oh, and there was other dramas around the place that had to be attended to, but let's see whether or not this former has worked. Alright, that looks enough like a nose that I can work with, because it is mainly the this area down here that I'm after. So this is a strip of fabric. In fact, where's me fabric cutter? Now this is massively bigger than I'm after, but I've already got a swimming cap that is going to be going in place of the like a bald cap, but I need a way of joining the nose prosthetic onto it, and the best way that I can think of doing that is to have a strip of fabric and join the two together. Actually, I'll leave a bit extra on there and then just use a bit of blue tack to hold that in place, and I can always cut that off, because it's mainly this part that I need to build up. Like I said, we do cosplay a fair bit, and this was liquid latex that was on special. I hope it's still good, because it's been sitting a while, probably a couple of years. Yeah, it's looking messy, but this is essentially just for the sort of first coat, just to get it bonded in and get the shape of it. Right, so that's just a thin coating just to get a base down. An awful lot of that, chances are I'm going to cut away, but it is at least a start, and as long as it is holding that former, then I can start building up the prosthetic from there. So I will probably leave that to cure overnight, unless it's a really fast cure, and see how we go tomorrow. Okay, cosplay diary day 2. Yesterday did not go according to plan, but that doesn't mean that I can't make up the time. I've now only got 4 days to go. The big problem was that the resin wouldn't set on this wand, and it has overnight, thankfully, so I can get on with that. That is going to be today's job. I did manage to get the first couple of coats of latex rubber on the nose prosthetic, and I may be able to get a bit more done on that. Even though there was an awful lot of drying time involved yesterday, it doesn't mean that I was not otherwise occupied. I've grabbed the material for the clothing, and that's been washed and is ready to be used. I found the old cloak that I'm going to be using, and that's been washed and ready. Swimming cap, because he's got a bald head. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And a pair of sandals, kindly donated by her indoors. So it wasn't a complete loss, but I do have to get on. Next thing to do is going to be marking out all of the positions for the knobbly bits on this, so I'll crack on with that, and I'll show you how I am going to be constructing the rest of that. Right, I've given the shaft of the paintbrush a quick sandpaper just to get the gloss varnish off, because I don't want that messing around with the adhesion of the next parts that I'm putting on there. Plus it means that it'll take paint a bit better when we get to that stage. I've also marked off the knobbly bits, and they're sort of like quite a length, and put a bit of a mark in the middle there, because what I now want to do is put a few divots in there so that the knobbly bits don't sort of like slide off, because it is a tapered wand paintbrush, whatever you want to call it. So let me get on with that, and this is a loud bit. Now there is a round piece that goes on the back there, and from what I've seen it's around about 2.5 centimetres, which is round about the width of a bottle cap. Now I'm not going to go for the actual cap itself. I am going to snip down and see if I can get out that sort of blue insert, because that is hopefully going to be exactly what I'm after. No, that's not going to come out. Alright, plan the second 25mm base. So I'll get that cut out. Actually, planned the third because I had a better idea. Back when I was doing the foliage, I had some tiddlywinks, and one of those appears to be far more the size that I was expecting. I think 2.5 centimetres is a little bit on the big side for it, and that comes out at about 1.7. So I have done some scratch marks on the top, and now we will glue it in place. And you've seen me do this trick before as well. Get a nice big dollop all the way around the edges like that, and it's worked up sort of like over the nail head, and then baking soda just to give it more material to adhere. Right, it's hot glue time. I've already started, and what you can see is I am going on all of these knobbly bits and just using the hot glue to sort of build up the surface area a little bit, because hot glue is far cheaper than the milliput that I'm going to be using later on, and that is the reason why I have made those markings, just so that I can get sort of the right area. Well, you can see that is starting to very quickly take shape. I'll just let that glue set for a second, and while I've got the hot glue out, I am going to turn my attention to this nose prosthetic, because I'm going to use hot glue just to build up sort of the bridge of the nose, because that wants to be quite flat. And I have no doubt that there are costumers out there that are absolutely howling at me, but without spending a huge amount on proper sort of moulding and rubber materials, this is about the best that I've got, and hopefully it's up to the job. But the good thing is it does very quickly start to build that area up. Right, I'll let that settle and set. Yeah, it's starting to build up now, and I'll come back to that. Okay, time to start getting some texture and building up that one properly. White milliput, that feels mixed enough. Get a bit of water on just to help smooth it all the way down there, and then on this end, yeah, get the proper indentations on it. Right, and I'll carry on down. Right, I did know that this stage was going to be long and painstaking, but as you can see, I am building it up in sections there. That's one of the knobbly bits sort of done, and just to get that texture I've only just used the end of a paintbrush just to poke sort of divots into it. Oh, so I will spend the next couple of hours getting the rest of that done, and it can go for an overnight dry. Okay, I've got the elder wand all cleared up and that is drying, so now it is time to get back to this prosthetic and a bit more hot glue work, and I want that and that. Now, one of the big problems that I can foresee is trying to get that to actually stick down on my nose, so I am going to use these build them up underneath, and then I'll hopefully find some way of hooking them around my nostrils, which is going to be gross but possibly effective. If I take it from there. Now these are on like surgical masks. These are the bits that go over the bridge of your nose and you know, form to shape. So it should be ideal for what I'm after. Right, if I press that in like that, dab a hot glue along there. Right, and then I can build up over the top of that. Okay, and then I can carry on building this up. Now that is almost getting to around about the right height. Right, that is the profile that I was after. Cosplay Diary Day 3. A bit of a mixed bag. Yesterday the bulk of the day was taken up with getting this fella ready, and I'm quite happy with that, and it's all dried. That is going off for a paint job today. However, I did more work on the nose prosthetic, and I'll be perfectly honest, I am not 100% happy with it. It looks to me to be sort of cockeyed, and it feels quite heavy. I'm probably going to take the former off today and see how it fits, and it may be a case that I have to go to a backup plan. What else is going to be going on today? There's other cosplay stuff, so it's a shopping trip. My son needs some costuming stuff, and I'll keep an eye out for stuff for this one. I might manage to get something a little bit more sort of ready-made in the way of clothing. You never know. Alright, I'll get on. Well, I've never filmed at this angle before, and my apologies if it's a bit echoey. We are in the bathroom. Those of you who are aware of the Harry Potter universe and know Voldemort will have realised he doesn't have facial hair. The things we do for our craft. It's okay. At the end of the day, Movember is coming up, so it's not as if I'm not going to just go straight back again. Yeah, don't worry about that. Right, I'll wait until that calms down, and then it's prosthetic time. I am going to have to go the more expensive route, and the reason why this has had to go today is because some of it is going to be going onto that lip. Yeah. Okay kids, under no circumstances do this. This is a grown-up adult about to do something probably very, very, very silly. What I have is 2-part moulding putty. It comes out as latex rubber. You form it around something that you want to make a mould out of, and it's very rubbery and it's really good. And I don't have a huge amount of it because it is quite expensive. I have, hopefully you can see these are nose plugs, and I am going to be using those basically to hook into my nostrils and hold the whole lot down. This needs to go on now. And now I'm going to use this fabric to attach it to the swimming cap that I'm going to be using for the bald head. But that means that I've now got something that I can form the piece onto. The nose plugs go in. What I've done, obviously, I'll show you. Okay, so that it fits around the nostril like that, and there's a little bit of a hook there just so that it can actually grab into the foam rubber, and I'll just squeeze that down a bit. Okay, now with this stuff, basically I have got a stopwatch there because I have 1 minute to stir it together, 3 minutes to get it onto my nose and in place, and then 25 minutes to allow it to dry and set. Right, here goes. And obviously I am massively nervous about this. Still see flecks of white in it. Okay, that's the 1 minute mark. Right, I am actually past the working time, but the rest can be sorted with trimming and silicone rubber. Yeah, I'm going to have to trim that bit off and trim the sides, but that is sitting quite nicely on there. I set a timer for 25 minutes and let this set. Right, cosplay diary day 4, and the crafting table is absolute carnage. Right, the high point. Our disguised paintbrush, the Elder Wand, is now all completed and painted. Over the next couple of days I'll get a couple of coats of varnish on that, just so that stuff doesn't rub off. Oh, right, where to start? Because I have 2 days to go and I'm fast running out of time. Okay, first of all, when it comes to making prosthetics, find a different YouTube video, because this is not the one for you. Things are not going well. Couple of things. This stuff, which is latex from a dollar store, is not latex rubber. I've used latex rubber in the past. I made and still have, a Klingon headpiece with all the brow ridges and stuff like that. I got that latex rubber from a factory and it acts completely different to this. This is drying more like PVA. So, you know, thin parts of it, instead of being flexible like gloves, it's just shattering. So that is out of the window. Which leaves me with the moulding rubber, because I'm not going to get the opportunity to order in any proper latex, and I haven't got the time to build up another complete prosthetic from scratch. This is very difficult stuff to work with in terms of making a prosthetic. It is pretty unforgiving. That is the one that I made on camera yesterday. Now, the high point of this is that I can still salvage it. As you can see, yes, I've cut it down because the bottom part just didn't work. The nose plugs got forced out, and I'm going to have to redo that. I've learned an awful lot about working with this material over the course of yesterday. It doesn't stick to itself. I'm not sure whether or not it sticks to proper latex rubber, because obviously I don't have any. I can't use heat to do anything with it, because it actually has, having a look back, and I should have remembered this, in the instructions you can actually use it to mould low melt point metals, and you know how hot they get. So something like this, which is my wood burner, doesn't melt it in any way, shape or form. However, two things that I can do with it. One, I can grind it down using my sanding disc on the Dremel, so I can shape it. So that's good. The second thing is it will stick to itself very easily with super glue. So, and I'm not going to show this on camera, what I am going to have to do over the course of today is grind down that bottom part so I can fit the nostril piece on, make that separately, and kind of blend them, and then stick it together with super glue. And then hopefully, after a makeup job, you're not going to be able to tell. So that is my big job for the day, and if that goes well, I'll get that attached to the headpiece, and then I can actually make a start on the cloak. Oh yeah, one other high point. I did manage to find a collarless shirt that I'll use underneath when we were on our shopping trip yesterday. So I had better get cracking. Right, a couple of hours later and I finally have a prosthetic that I am happy with. Let's get that off there. So that is going to sit basically like that. Alright, next thing to do is get this attached to the swimming cap and then get the ears cut out. That is going to be long and laborious and a faff because I have tried it before. So I won't show that on camera. But then I should be able to start this evening getting a start on the clothing. Oh! Diary, day 5. Yesterday was absolute carnage. I am nowhere near at the stage where I had hoped I would be, mainly because the headpiece just didn't work. Obviously I got the nose prosthetic and I'm happy with that, but when it came to actually piecing it onto the swimming cap, it just tore. Now I have done this before. I made a Darth Maul headpiece for my youngest, but that was about 10 years ago, and the swimming cap just seemed, this just seems flimsy and cheap compared to the way they used to make them back in the day. But as you can see, we've done an early morning run, and this is a slightly more expensive one, but it's doing the job. I don't need to cut anything out for the ears, so it stays intact. I've just got to glue that, secure the prosthetic in place, and all my hair tucks up inside, which is dead good. So the nose goes on here, and then it is onto the costuming, which I will set the sewing machine up right now. Right, power tool usage time. I've got a pile of fabric pieces. So I've cut all of the things out for his overrobe. Now I didn't use a pattern for this. Basically I've eyeballed it, which is generally what I do. I'm not the world's greatest seamstress, whatever you call it. So yes, it's going to be neck to floor. There is one piece for the back. There are 2 front pieces with a curved neck that overlaps. It's going to be tied off at the waist and long billowy sleeves. That's all got to be joined together. But the first thing I have to do is zigzag all of these. So I will get cracking. Okay, that is everything edged. Now I've got to attach the 2 front panels to the back panel at the shoulders. Then after that, I can add the sleeves. Sounds like a plan. Well, I've got the pieces joined. Now all I've got to do is go around the seams to make it a proper garment and pretty up the edges. And that's done. This is the part that the good lady wife has been looking forward to. It occurred to us a few days ago that Voldemort doesn't have any hair anywhere. So,
but that we know of.
No, I specifically did Google to see whether or not he had a Brazilian, and there is no mention of him having a Brazilian, so no, you're not. But this has got to go. Get on with it.
Okay, hold my hand.
Ah!
Should we just shave it? Because this is like... I can't do And we did this to our legs.
Why?
Because you guys like fucking... I'll shave it. Honestly,
I'll shave it.
I mean, look, it wasn't for nothing.
Diary entry day 6. This is D-Day. And I've got about 3 hours left. And things didn't go according to plan yesterday. Why is it that they never seem to in this vlog? So I constructed the garment and I made a really rookie mistake. I had been doing the measurements from an old t-shirt, and one thing that I didn't take into account is the t-shirting stretches, and it will accommodate people who are old and fat like me. So the garment was too tight across the stomach, which means I'm going to have to add fastening, and it was too late last night, so I've been down and I've got them, so I need to crack on. The prosthetic and skull cap, I'm having problems getting the face paint to stick on that. I'm not sure what the problem is there. It must be something to do with the mold release on that silicone. So that has gone off for a quick undercoat of grey primer, and we'll see what happens there. The skull cap I'm not too worried about because that's roughly the right colour in any case, so I can get away with that. And the nose is solid, so there's not going to be any cracking or anything like that. It doesn't flex too much. All to do, I need to get on. Quick clothing check. Yes, that is now all fitting, and it does go over my gut. It's not exactly movie accurate, but it does give the impression, and I'm only taking the external cloak for while we're out. Good enough. So I have retreated to the sanctuary of my games room to deconstruct that costume. I will be honest, I was definitely in two minds whether or not to post this video at all, because I was not happy with the finished product. The makeup was wrong, the nose didn't work, there was more work that I could have and should have done on it. However, I have always on this channel shared mistakes that I've made with you so that you can learn from my mistakes and not repeat them yourself, which is why this is getting posted. So what went wrong? I fell into the rookie trap. The cosplay curse. I simply ran out of time. Yeah, I can complain an awful lot about all of the disasters that were happening along the way, but you expect that. There was nothing that was insurmountable. If I had had one more day, then I could have done a dress rehearsal and seen that the makeup was too dark and it was all over the place and the nose was too bulbous, and I could have worked on that, and I would have been far, far happier with the finished product. But as it was, I was so short of time that we were 5-10 minutes late getting there, and even on the car journey on the way through I was applying makeup. You get that. So what was I not happy with? Okay, yes, the makeup, it was too dark and grey. It should have been far, far lighter. Had I done a dress rehearsal, I would have seen how long it took to put the makeup on, and I would have been able to allow for extra drying time, because what was happening was I was applying different colours while it was still wet. It was blending together, it was all over the place. It was a complete gong show. With the nasal prosthetic it was far too bulbous, but I couldn't realistically tell, with it being that sort of bright purple colour, how it was going to look. And you know, in all of the sort of crafting projects I do, until you get that first undercoat on and it all blends together, you can't realistically tell whether or not it's going to work as a cohesive model. Because it was so late in the day that I actually managed to get colour to stay on it, I had run out of time. With that extra day I would have been able to, you know, shave it down thinner. As it was, as far as I'm concerned, it just looked like a blob on my face. But on the positive side, I ended up with a viable, if not good, costume. All the elements were there. The accessories, the clothing, the makeup was done and on time. No, I wasn't happy with it, but hey. Concentrating more on the high points. Yes, this definitely worked. I don't think anybody can say that I did a bad job on this. This was the part that was far more in the comfort zone. It's all of those skills as a tabletop crafter that we use essentially all the time. The only difference is that it's a piece where you wave it around and hold it in your hand, as opposed to sitting it on the table and staring at it from 3 foot away. But this is not the piece that I was the most happy with, because the robe is something that I am not as comfortable making. I am not a clothing manufacturer person by any stretch of the imagination, and there are probably people far better with a sewing machine that would have looked at some of the things that I was doing and shaken their head in disbelief. But for doing it by myself with eyeballing the measurements and no pattern, etc, etc, and being able to recover from the mismeasurement of not getting around my fat gut, I am really pleased with the way that that bit turned out. That was the stretch of my abilities, and yeah, I'm chuffed with that part. Those of you from other countries that are sitting watching and saying, oh, you should have used this, remember, New Zealand is a small island nation out in the middle of nowhere with a small population and a small economy, and it just does not warrant being able to support the kind of product range that people in the US or Europe are able to get away with. I am in the second biggest city in the country, and sourcing materials, latex rubber would have been brilliant if I had been able to get hold of some of that, but you've got to ship it in, you've got to order it, and you pay as much in shipping, if not more, than for the actual product itself, and that all adds to the lead time and the time which I ran out of. I did the best with what I could. There was nothing that was insurmountable. I just ran out of time. However, one of the good things to come out of it is that I managed to have a word with one of the committee members of the Sports and Social Club at work, and I've put forward the idea that as an event they should maybe do something along the lines of fancy dress, cosplay, costuming, because we do know that there are an awful lot of people around the office that do partake in that particular thing. And I think it would be really good, and hopefully it means that I will be able to, well, either make something new or possibly even resurrect some old favourites that these guys haven't seen. But that is all you have from me for this time. As ever, if you have enjoyed seeing a bloke in pain due to epilation, please do hit the like and subscribe and get notifications, and if you really want to share that portion of the video, feel free. Until next time, mischief managed.